Welcome to the Capsule 21 podcast about art, culture, good vibes, NFTs. I'm Middlemarch, and my co-hosts are Dovetail, who is here. Piv is not here. Today, we are going to talk about nouns. What is nouns? What is a DAO? And what does it mean to subsidize someone's vibes? Can a cool person make someone else who's not cool feel comfortable and more cool, and is that good to do for free as a subsidy, or should you get paid for it, or should you not have to do it? But first, I want to give a quick recap of the Capsule 21 project of the week that was released this week. It's a project called Default Punks. It is a project that asks the question, what would it look like to create the iconic default avatar style, which is basically a dark blue shape that looks like a person ish in front of a light blue background. To create that style with punks, Piv asked this question and created a single so-called zero trait default PFP punk, just the man punk outline and the silhouette of the man punk and no hat or anything on that. And then the project of default punks as a collection was to look at all of the unique silhouettes of all the punks and imagine them as default PFPs in Twitter or in Facebook. A silhouette is basically what happens if you shine a light on someone and then look at the shadow that they make on the wall behind them. That is a silhouette. Silhouette paintings used to be very popular because they were cheaper to do. If you wanted to get your whole face painted, in the old days, that was a lot of work. But if you just wanted something that kind of looked like your face, with the contours of you, that was a lot easier to do. And so silhouettes were popular in that context. And today, if you're looking at the CryptoPunks, you also lose, a bunch of attributes. You lose a bunch of complexity, and it's also easier to draw a CryptoPunk silhouette because multiple punks will have the same silhouette, just like multiple people will have approximately, the same silhouette. And so, in the CryptoPunk example, if you have a punk with a clown nose and a punk without a clown nose, obviously the punks will have the same silhouette if that's the only difference, because a clown nose is the middle of the face. That doesn't affect the silhouette. And so it turns out that if you only look at silhouette affecting attributes, if you only do what they used to do in old timey paintings and look at someone's silhouette against the wall, you lose about 90% of all the information in the punk collection because you only have about 1,954 to be precise unique silhouettes. So if you want to be very harshly critical of the CryptoPunks, you can say, hey, really only created 954 punks, because all the other ones you just put a pixel here, a pixel there. For the 954, the outline, the gestalt of the entire thing, what happens when you squint, had to be unique. And so that's what this collection is. When you look at these default punks, they all look pretty like defaulted out, but they are all actually unique, and so they're not default at all. And that's kind of the paradox. And so wanted to talk a little bit about it. Really, I just wanted to hear Piv talk, but he's gonna be a little late. But Dovetail famously minted 3 live and had a mid-level experience. And by the way, you can all mint this at capsule21.com, and they're only 954. But Dov, what's the answer? What would be the most thrilling default punk avatar?
That's a good question. I wouldn't say that the experience was mid. I just didn't like the 3 that I pulled. I don't know. Everyone has like attributes that they prefer. I just wish that I got some attributes that I preferred. I got ones that I'm kind of.
What did you want?
Ambivalent.
What did you want?
I like my favorite trait is probably the dark hair on the female punks. Dark hair and cigarette would have been cool. Hoodie would have been really cool. That's, beggars can't be choosers. Okay.
What is dark hair in this scenario?
Oh, dark hair is the short bob.
Ah, okay. So it is identifiable from the silhouette.
Yeah.
Although, to your point, there are and welcome Emily to the stage. Emily wearing
Hi,
PFP.
sorry.
No, I'm like, hi. It's great to have you. And I just want Emily's wearing a distinctly non-standard PFP, which is a female silhouette in a hoodie, so that is not possible in this collection. But I think having it's a common extension to put the female uh, form with
Yes,
the male type. So I wonder what that would.
women should get hoodies. That's it's kind of ridiculous that the original collection doesn't have that.
Well,
I
women
think
get cool stuff in the original one.
Yeah, I
Hoodies,
guess.
I guess, are turned out to be extremely popular. But yeah, the dark hair is an attribute that is identifiable. But unfortunately for the women, there are some attributes on the hair side that are not unique at all. So you have straight hair dark, straight hair blonde, and straight hair. So they really
Yeah, how did
laid it
you
out for
handle
you.
that? How did you handle that in the attributes? What did you name it as?
So it's the same thing as like when it's a man versus a zombie, which is the same silhouette. I sort of just picked one randomly. I thought about this like, oh, I can include all of them and this thing or the other thing, but there should only be one hair attribute. So it's kind of chosen randomly. It's sad. The other instances of this are the front beard dark, and chin strap are all the same silhouette. So the more you know. And then there is another one, I think, but I can't
By
remember.
the
So yeah,
way,
these
I'm
were
looking at
these were
I'm looking at the PFP of everyone in here, and we got a lot of people, so thank you guys. But it's funny that Mad Yak, yours really stands out. Everyone's like gray, black and white, scary. Emily's got a skeleton, and then you got the what is that, like a gutter? Is that what it is?
it's
well, it's
Halloween.
modified. It's remixed.
Yeah,
We're all
yeah.
feeling spooky for Halloween.
Oh yeah. Everyone's got nice, creepy October PFPs. It's good.
Well, when you're a parent, I don't know if anyone out here is a parent, but I'm a new-ish
I'm a parent. My
You're a
daughter's
parent?
5. Uh-huh.
Oh yeah, I know you're a parent. I've actually seen like your posts and kid stuff or whatever, but like first time you've been more than I have. But now Halloween is just like, okay, so it's like Bumblebee or what for the kids. So it's less scary for
Mm.
me now. It's more of a kind of manufactured like cute vibe thing, which I'm very much looking forward to. But like Doves, it's not really in phase with Doves background. It's more in phase with the Halloween punks, but. Yeah, Mad Yak. I mean, he also has the dripping thing going on too, which I think he did to it or something, and it's wearing the classic shades.
Yeah,
So, it's a
yeah.
pretty
Those
good
are
one.
custom.
That's not bad. But yeah, I like color. I mean, don't get me wrong. Like default punks was, a good idea to take through, and always my question when I see like any idea is what would it look like to do it for all the punks or whatever. And so, something I've done with Pip before, but it's not really like my. It's funny,
Did
but
you
it's not really
see?
like my style. I like color.
Did you see that people requesting? They were like, "Oh, dude, they should do a default punks, but with the me colors."
That's smart. Yeah, I thought they were saying
Well,
overall punks.
it's smart, but it's funny because we did it. Except it's only one punk.
Yeah, the punk has to have 7 colors, unfortunately.
Yeah,
But
but I'm saying with the Vanitas, this is done. We've been there.
yeah, well, the Vanitas thing, yeah, was in some ways the death of. We really took it far with the Vanitas thing. The problem with the frickin' the Maryland version is that we put a time gate on it, so like now you can't mint it, which was probably the stupidest thing.
No,
One of
no,
the
it's cool. It's exclusive. Now the people who they have something that's rare. It's exclusive.
I really appreciate that about what you guys do with Capsule 21, like all the different experimentation of like what makes this collectible, what makes this interesting, what different variable can we put on it or constraint can we put on it that'll make it appealing to somebody else. I think that's like a fun, novel part of what you guys do.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, I think the one issue with it, though, and Pim and I were talking about this before, which is unfortunate, is like when you experiment, you want it to be this like let a thousand flowers bloom thing. And you're trying this thing, you're trying the other thing. Not everything has to work perfectly. Like people will like it, people won't. And I think that's the spirit of this thing. Like Piv at one point was kind of like, should we even like do this? Like, is this even good enough? I like to do everything, by the way. But Piv's like, in the end, we were like, okay, you got to just throw it out there. But the problem with NFTs that are quote unquote high concept, that are based on a very specific idea, is in order to appreciate them from a sketchpad perspective, in order to understand the idea, you have to be able to look at a bunch of these things, and you can't look at a bunch of these things unless they mint, basically. So what you want to give people this experience of is the gestalt, of like the array of all of the confronting the array of all of these default punks, and how does that make you feel? And yet you can't do that. And we got a good amount of mints right now. So if you go to the OpenSea, you do get the effect. But something like clickbait, some of the other stuff, like I just wish that this is, I guess, the point about exclusivity. Like if you are trying to do like an art thing, you want to show people, then you don't want to make that have to be thousands of dollars that goes into it before they can see it. At the same time, maybe you have time on your side or whatever. But I think it could be cool. Maybe I could do it in this case. So it's a pain to have some kind of way of viewing everything, even the ones before they're minted. But then it's like, well, OpenSea is the best way to view this stuff, and OpenSea won't do that. So maybe I could have a testnet deployment of this product that's like, here's the gallery, and then go mint the real thing. But some way of having an artistic.
Just build a page that goes off the IPFS hashes and just puts it in a gallery on a website.
It's also interesting that the art just exists when it's minted. I think, like you said, like no, the hoodie doesn't exist yet in the default punks. So it is interesting, and I think you lose something if you show them before. Also,
100%.
Yeah, I think so.
I agree. I think you
I
also
agree too.
lose. I think you also lose something if you show them in a gallery. Like I think if it was just like a slideshow or like a website where you could just scroll through all of them, you would also be losing the context of, what NFTs are. Not in terms of like what an NFT literally is, but what an NFT culturally is as like a financial object that you purchase and trade and collect. So showing it on OpenSea or on LooksRare or like a marketplace, I think that's like integral to the experience of what it actually means to look at a PFP collection. I don't know if that makes sense. That's kind of how I think of it.
I agree. I think it's about like incremental consumption. So you're consuming the collection as a whole as it gets minted. So if you perhaps minted the whole collection and it's all available, after about 3 pages of scrolling, you kind of get a bit over it.
But
so I like the fact that it's coming out slowly.
Yeah, me too. But like for clickbait, we have this whole bunch of filters where you can really filter them on all kind of colors and not gradients, but it only works when you after a certain amount of mints, and now it's not really working yet because there's just not enough mints.
Yeah, you need to have those come out as traits.
Oh,
you need
such
the traits to actually be minted.
Regard.
Horrible.
Like, you don't even know, like, just the amount of time. And when you're doing this kind of thing, you're always just going to testnet, minting 1,000 of these things or 9,000 of these things. Screw it. Like, let's go. And you're testing with that, and you're trying to make that look good. You're spending so much time on that use case, and it's like, will that ever happen? And I agree with you, Dub, that like, and especially from an Andy Warhol type perspective of like, the money is the most important thing, and that you got to feel that and whatever, and that's NFT culture. Even just from a filtering standpoint, like OpenSea has done a pretty good job with that. The best one, I think, actually is the rarity.tools website, which I actually used extensively for, this and other projects, which really gives you the drill down type vibe. It's a lot faster than OpenSea. You can't buy, tells you some stuff, but that's the kind of thing. And creating an interface like that, for an arbitrary collection, like not a specific one, it's a lot of work. So anyway, please mint default punks and help. It's a public good, really. You will help the project, not even from a financial standpoint, gain appreciation, and that will help people appreciate the punks and how to make art. A word about the attributes quickly in this. Dove mentioned this a little bit. So there's some, there's the concept of the silhouette, right, of a punk. is what this is. It's not a punk itself. It's the silhouette of a punk, which is, the shadow cast by however many punks cast the same shadow. And so you have to ask yourself, what are the attributes of that silhouette, right? And it's not just, the attributes of every one punk. It's not even the common attributes shared by all punks, because not all those attributes define the silhouette. If you could remove an attribute and the silhouette would look the same, it's not an attribute of the silhouette. Now, that is a bit of a controversial statement, but I do not believe in hidden attributes. You can't just write whatever you want in the attributes thing and have that affect important notions like rarity and so forth. You have to write, what are the actual attributes. So to me, you got to see them. So when we were thinking about the attributes for this, it was like, how do you come up with the group of attributes that actually defines this silhouette? So top hat defines all silhouettes that is present in. You can't have a top hat and not know it by the silhouette. There's no silhouette where you'd say, is there a top hat there? Like, it's always there. But some things like VR goggles are not like that. So, if you look at a silhouette of a hoodie, you don't know if there's a VR goggles, but if you look at a silhouette of a non-hoodie, you do. And so there is this now new concept that gets injected into the punk world called the concept of a silhouette affecting attribute. So you can look at any punk, you can look at any attribute of that punk and say, does this attribute affect that punk's silhouette? You can't just look at the silhouette affecting attributes globally because of the VR issue. It's relative to the punk. But then this is new. So this was a new thing that we kind of came up with here, and the idea of a silhouette affecting attribute, and the only way to compute it that I could figure out that wasn't just like hoping and praying, was you take a punk and you remove every attribute one by one, and each time you remove it, you say, did the silhouette change? And if it did, that's attribute you just removed is a silhouette affecting attribute. Then you put it back and remove another. So I had to build a bit of a punk builder for this, and that allowed me to create the attribute listings for the punks that you see, the attribute sets on OpenSea. It was not at all. That was the hardest part of this project, was to make sure that I got that right. So if you look at that, you are really seeing not just the image, right, which is cool looking, but if you look at the attributes, you can really see the essence there. And the attributes, are really important, because otherwise you can't tell what's big shades and what's VR. And, you can really get a sense for, what is going on with how much or how little it takes to define a, default punk. So that was a lot of fun too. Please check out the attributes. What's up, 0x Chunk? What's up, Chunk?
Hey mate, I just wanted to say that's cool that you did that. I mean, I was going to say something else just then, but it's really important that you say that you did do that, because it extracts the things that aren't needed, just like the casting the shadow also takes away. So it kind of like the things that were done to the image were done to the metadata, so you don't get things that shouldn't be there. So that's a really cool thing. The other thing I wanted to say is also a shout out to you guys, including Piv, because I've started, based off the Excel punks, I created something called the Google Sheet punks. And using Google Sheets, so this is something that I've probably talked to you guys about, varyingly here and there. I've taken the traits from the punks and I've extracted the actual attributes with the images into SVGs. And so I take Google Sheets now, and just with simple VLOOKUP tables, I am now extracting all of actually rebuilding the whole punk collection again in SVGs. So when there are hidden traits, like an earring behind something or something on top of something, they actually do appear, because when you look at the SVGs, they're there in the layers, and you can actually extract the SVG. So in a way, there is a 3D chess thing going on where the traits there, and if you really wanted to, you can play with the SVG and find it, but it's kind of included within the image, so you just don't see it. And maybe that's just because you can't read SVG. It's not a flex thing. It's just more, I wanted to include the traits in there so then later on people can extract them and use them for later. So I'll be releasing my project on a different blockchain, but I'll be definitely making my
not
sheet
Chia.
available.
It better not be Chia.
Of course it's Chia, bro.
I knew it.
You know that. I didn't want to shill, dude. I just wanted
to
just
Chia shilling in this spin. No, I
didn't.
But seriously, don't chill shit. But I brought it up. You weren't even saying it. I brought it up.
Exactly.
So it's really, but I will admit it. I do think that's a great idea. I think at one point I might have pitched that to Piv in the vein of like, Piv, I wanted to re-release Excel punks, but Pib didn't want to like rug everyone who already bought the first version. So I said, what about Google Sheet punks? So I'm really glad you're doing it. And I can, now that it's sort of that's on-chain or on-chain adjacent-ish, I can, endorse that as the next generation of the Pib thing. But I do object to this notion of like reading the SVG, right? Like I used to be the #1 SVG. Sean Bonner, what's up? The first lister of any default punk. Thank you, starting the market making process. I used to be this SVG maxi guy who was always saying like, okay, on chain and SVG is like the better way to do it because it's very like precise and scalable and all this kind of stuff. And as we discussed in like previous pods and especially in the context of the Vertigo punks thing, like I've come to not believe that. I've come to believe that SVG is too inside baseball. It is this programming language basically that can do anything. And because of that, it can't really be considered an image format. You have to be too smart. You have to you talk about you reading SVG. Web browsers can't even read SVG. Some of them, the Twitter app can't read SVG. So how smart are we asking
with
people?
marketplaces for sure.
Yes. How smart are we asking a human to be? A human read SVG. What about a computer? That's the same issue with HTML. There's no way to, in general, interpret HTML. Like you can have an HTML web page. Anyone can make an HTML web page that crashes any browser. Doesn't actually work. So the beauty of an image format is there's one way to do it. You read it and it's done. And that's what we did for this project. Actually, I adopted my new gold standard for quasi on-chain, which is the image itself. The attributes are on-chain because that's just obviously the best thing. There's no reason to not have those on-chain, although it's not actually so easy to store them and there's some tricks there or whatever. But the image is IPFS, pinned by yours truly. So I better not, hope nothing happens to my credit card. But the token URI also has a field for HTML. And the HTML, no, it's not SVG, but it contains SVG. The HTML has the content on chain, and there's instructions in the token description for how, and you got to hope that JavaScript works the same way, or for how to generate the image from the HTML, using software, which is the right way to do it, to actually generate an image. So I think this approach actually gives you the best of both worlds. But I consider it a bug to have the unnecessary complexity of stuff in the SVG that you can't see as a user. The elegant solution for the user is to provide the absolute minimum cleanest possible thing, which is a PNG that just shows it to you. But that's my latest feeling.
No, that's cool.
On it.
No, I'll take that perspective as well. I mean, the original intent of the collection was to put, and this is to do with Chia itself and the blockchain and stuff on chain, but the idea was to put every single trait into groups or defined groups in SVG, and then just display the ones that are for that punk, therefore giving everybody that had a token in the collection basically access to every single attribute. So you could say, I can only really do things with this PFP if the attributes are in my image, but I'm kind of just being cheeky in saying, well, you've got every single one of them. You just have to dig them out.
Yeah,
and
that's interesting. I mean,
we'll build tools to dig them out. But yeah.
The more challenging thing then again, is like, how do you actually do that? So one fact about punks, which could be interesting to everyone, is, so about like hair, right? Hair is an attribute or whatever. That actually does not exist, right? Like that's all an invention of the, what's the name for people that come after the main people? You know what I mean? Like that's all an invention of us. The original punks, if you go to the website, it just lists the attribute names. It doesn't say what they are. And so various different punks, for example, the V1 punks, shouts to Sean Bonner, which I was working on fixing a nameless issue in the images and wanted to look at the JSON. Like they do stuff like they have blemish or they have like clown nose, yes, or like smile, yes. Like they have some attributes that are like yeses if they exist, and they have some attributes or things. And then you could have another thing that's like facial expression, smile or nose, clown nose, that kind of thing. I don't know which ones that, and then there's rarity tools. I hope that I use those. I don't know, rarity tools I love, which is, hair, eyes, facial hair, neck accessory, mouth prop. What's a mouth prop? Some people, I think Crypto Funks, which I took mine from, has mouth and lips, right? So what is the right thing to do there? And then what is the exact right layering, ordering, and the exact thing it works and everything. Like I got when I was building this punk builder, I stole the sprites, the individual layers from a site called Unlisted Punks, which was a site where you could build a punk, and I thought it was a great site. And then unfortunately, I discovered a security vulnerability, and the guy shut it down, so now you can't actually use it. I wish I had never reported that because, who cares? No one's going to exploit it anyway. But it was a very fun site. But he had a bunch of he had a very cool builder and a bunch of sprites, and you could build them. But then I was like building them and using it, and I noticed, oh wait, there's no black line under the chin strap. Like this has a mistake. So there's actually no way to get. And if you read, there was like the punk extensions. Like they did a bunch of expansion punks. They did a bunch of work on this that was like guessing like what is the color of the rosy cheeks on top of a skin tone that doesn't actually have the rosy cheeks in the original, since that's a partially transparent trait. What's the original transparency? So anyone, and I believe this is all defined in the punk data contract, if anyone has the fortitude to look at
For
that.
some of them they are, for some they aren't. I don't know if rosy cheeks have that in the actual alpha in the last two hex characters in the color. I know that definitely it's 80%, like it's 80 for like the smoke coming out of the cigarette, but I don't think there was for some other traits. So if you there's a Medium article done by Expansion Punks that actually go through how they did it. They used a minimizing function. I forgot what it's called in Excel, but basically a minimizing function to try and find the minimum difference between all of the skin tones. So you've got the same, you find the color first, and then you need to find what opacity minimizes the differences between all skin tones. And then they found that. And it was like, I don't know, 20% for rosy cheeks. So they give you the hex code and they give you the rosy cheeks. But that's just kind of a little tidbit. They've done it for all the other ones as well.
Right. And I do recommend that Medium article. That is a good article, but it's pretty unsatisfying. They're sort of like, this is our best guess. And I don't know what the feeling is in here about the quality of the art in on Expansion Punks. Certainly they were the first, so I give them a lot of respect for that. I like some of the stuff. I like Ape with the beanie on it. But since that Medium article, a month later, Larva Labs put out the on-chain CryptoPunk data, and I believe that all of the individual traits are stored in their full glory in CryptoPunk data contract. And, otherwise, if they weren't, there would be no way to put 10,000 punks on chain without costing $1 bajillion, right? You have to put the data on and then build the punk. Otherwise, it's just if you put 10,000 PNGs on chain, it's like good luck with that. So they must have done something like that. The contract is very hard for me to understand. I believe that the answer to the rosy cheeks question is within the CryptoPunk data contract, but not in any of the public methods, because as you say, the public methods just render out the final cooked image. They don't actually show you the parts. So if anyone wants to figure that out, the true rosy cheeks alpha value from the CryptoPunk data contract, you will greatly impress me, and everyone else will be neutral about you, because no one.
No, I'll be impressed.
Yeah, just another person this,
and I'll take that.
And others. So I think it's you could really continue to go very deep on this, and I really think it's a really tough question for these punks. I use the attributes that I've always used, which I believe are the funk's attributes. So V1 punk lovers will not know what this is. So that's shout out Rob Markman from my Genius days. I used to be the CEO of a company called Genius, which is an amazing music knowledge driven platform and product where you can read the lyrics to any song and look up the meaning and hear about the meaning from the artist. Great website, genius.com. Rob Markman, incredibly brilliant instrumental figure in the site and a great friend of mine.
Just used it yesterday.
Sorry?
I just used it yesterday.
What'd you look up?
A new album by a favorite rapper of mine named Xavier Wolf. He had a new album come out, and I wanted to learn them. I wanted to know lyrics.
Yeah. Did it work?
Yeah, it was fun. I am a big karaoke fan. Whenever I'm listening to music, I sit there and alone and rap along or sing along or whatever. And Genius is how I do it.
Hell yeah, I really appreciate that. And I also commend you because, I've been involved in Genius, less now, but for a long time, like 10, 12 years of my life. And I would always ask people, oh, cool, you used it, you know it. Like, what'd you look up on there? And like 9 times out of 10, the person would be like, oh, I forgot, I don't know. And it's like, okay, you don't know what you're. So by actually correctly saying, now I believe you, Dove. Whereas previously I would have said, sure. You're just saying whatever. You're saying, I've heard of Genius and maybe I was on there. Genius is also interesting because you mentioned karaoke, because if you look at, the karaoke thing, you know how you pick something on karaoke and it will say like the name of the song as performed by the artist, you know what I mean? Like as performed by the
Yeah,
Cardigans, and
Ooh, good pick, Cardigans.
yeah, sorry, I'm under pressure. I had to go. Yeah, but okay, yeah. So when you work with Genius, when I work with Genius, and this is something that, if you're inside punks and you hear about like all this attribute stuff, you're kind of like, well, what is all this attribute stuff? Like, no one would ever care about this. Like the V1 punks, the V2 punks. Like when you talk to it's sort of an experience that I like to call talking to a normal person for 1 second about any of this. And it's like, what are you talking about? But all fields have this effect as well. And one example of that in Genius is that when you work on a music company, you realize that there is no such thing as a song. Like there is no actual
Right.
distinct element of a thing that is called a song. And that's why in the case of karaoke, you don't just see the name of the song you recognize, but you see as performed by, because when people think of a
Right.
song, it is some amalgamation of the composition of the song, the idea, the words, the musical notes or whatever, and the way it was performed in a given recording. So when you think of a song, it's like, what is a song? And so what is a cover? A cover is not really a cover of a song colloquially, because a cover of a song colloquially would be like, playing the song in the style of the person who, but a cover is often a reinterpretation, but really what a cover is reperformance of the composition. So, whenever you hear a song, just remember that doesn't exist. And the only things that exist are compositions, which are, descriptions of songs like words and stuff, and recordings.
This is perfect because then we can say, next logical step, default punks are CryptoPunks as performed by Piv, produced and engineered by Tom Newman.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think right. So, what is the analogy there? Right. Yeah, I mean, I think we are. It is definitely a cover, right? Because we are taking some of the core. Yeah, I think that's reasonable because we're taking some of the core elements and we're it's a big reinterpretation.
Capsule 21 is we don't do remixes, we do covers. I think that's a good way to think about it.
Yeah, but I think the colloquial understanding of it is that remix is more accurate. But strictly speaking, yeah, I would agree that we are creating, cover is really when you take the same.
Yeah, because we don't add new traits. Well, whatever. This is a stupid. This analogy doesn't mean anything.
You can use it as a lever.
It's kind of fun.
One example is a remix can use often pieces, and often does. It really is this. It uses pieces of the original recording, which is called sampling. Now, a cover typically does not do that. They create, they use the other thing. They reperform things, which is called, and this was always a brutal thing at Genius too, which is that everyone knows what a sample is, which is a clip of one recording placed into another recording. But there's another thing called performing an element of another song, another recording, reperforming it, and we called that an interpolation, which was to me always just like a mega fail, because what does that mean? And no one knows what that means. But a cover is kind of a giant interpolation, whereas a remix can be a sample or sample driven. So we are sampling the punks, and when you look at the punk data contract, where we actually directly draw the data from, that's a pretty clear case of sampling, because it's the source is so clear. Whereas if you make some picture of a punk, that might be an interpolation, that might be reinterpretation, that might be something that you made in Excel or whatever. But if you're actually pulling it from the master copy and that's verifiable, that's kind of a remix. But anyway, the point being, no matter what you get involved in, you're going to have a big problem communicating with normal people. So be prepared for that. But if you're in this space, you already know something.
Because we also try to make often references to existing art or old art. What is that then in your
It's
analogy?
a mashup.
What's the Marilyn from Warhol?
Yeah, I think. Well, I mean, I think that's a reference, right? And I think the key with references and the annoying and cool thing with references is that you don't always get them, and so that's why you have to explain them. So, for example, one of my favorite references in my genius days, one of my favorite like explanations, as it was called, or annotations, another word that I hate, was in the song. There's a song called Lil Uzi Vert, and in it he basically has this line where he says, "All my friends are dead. Push me to the edge."
EXO tour life.
You know the song, yes. So then,
Yeah.
okay, Dove, you're young. What does he mean when he says all my friends are dead?
That means they all died.
Aha, wrong. You're 100% wrong. No, you're right, and probably whatever. But another interesting interpretation is that what he's talking about is that all his only friend is money. Basically, all his friends are dollar bills because dollar bills have dead presidents on them, famously in tropes about money and hip hop and so forth. So all my friends are dead.
Okay.
So pretty good, right? Like that's a pretty good one.
Uzi's friends died to like overdosing on drugs because they were addicted to lean.
I'm sure
literally
it
all
also
his,
means
his
it's a
like
double
childhood
meaning.
friends died.
There's no truth about this kind of thing. It's just what's interesting, and I'm sure it's a double
Yeah,
meaning.
yeah.
But like, yeah, I think and those two are related, right? Like, if all your real friends die, then it's a double entendre because it means all my real friends are dead, and now I'm only left with my money, which is also dead people, dead presidents. So I think if
Therefore,
someone
push
is
me to the edge.
sorry.
I said, therefore, push me to the edge.
Yeah, you can see why he's on the edge. I mean, basically, with this double interpretation.
So, how does Lil Uzi Vert fit into the canon of the Nouns DAO drama? How do we segue?
Let's
EXO
segue.
tour life to Nouns DAO.
So here's my segue. So we are deep in this game, talking about CryptoPunks. We just gave an example of how you can be deep in another game, talking about the interpretation of music and how deep you can go. And when I think about nouns, what I think about is there's a whole other game going on right now at this very second and all the time that is separate and apart from this game. Some players do both. Like, I was a genius person and I know something about recordings, but I also know about this. But there's another game in crypto. And so when we think about crypto, when I think about crypto and NFTs, I tend to think about the CryptoPunks as my example of the great one. Dove thinks it's not going to be in a museum. I don't know if fine, but I think it's a great one. Basically, I love it. The CryptoPunks are kind of the purest example in a way because they basically are just like, you just look at them. Like, there's a famous thing from the CryptoPunks Discord where people were like, what are you supposed to do with these things? And then Matt, or one of the Larva Labs people, was like, you just look at them, basically. And that was kind of this beautiful thing because, of course, below that chat message, there was someone else basically selling a CryptoPunk for $70. So it's like, the Larva Labs guy is like, wink, wink, just look at them. And the other person's like, this is so stupid. I'm out of here. Like, I'm going to sell it for $70. So smart Larva Labs person. But the beauty of CryptoPunks from an artistic standpoint, and also why I think they create so many derivatives and everything, is you just look at them. Then over time, people came up with a different way of doing NFTs, and that was called the Bored Ape way, which was basically, it's a swamp club for apes, essentially, where you buy this thing and you don't just have to look at it or look at the traits, even though of course they had the traits and everything. You also get something. You get the membership of the club, and the club membership gives you future NFTs for free. It gives you all kinds of future unknown stuff for free and metaverse stuff. And you can go to the concert, and the concert's like pretty cool, and maybe you get other things. And so you have this thing, and and you get the other side lands, and you have land in the metaverse now, and and all this kind of stuff. And this was a cool idea, right? Because the level one criticism of CryptoPunks, they don't do anything. And so now this one, it's like, this is not just going to do things, this is going to do a lot of things. And not only that, it's the only thing out there, and it's going to keep getting better, that's doing these things. The first had the idea. Pretty cool. Now, this is going on right now. There's all kinds of Bored Ape stuff that we're not, they're not in this chat, and people who are into this kind of idea. The good part is obvious. The bad part is, does this make it a security? If you're counting on them doing good things with the other side land, is the land really an asset? Incidentally, the famous Howey test about securities was about a sort of land development type situation that's kind of analogous in some ways to the other side lands, but I'm not a securities lawyer. But on a deeper level, there's this question, and it's connected of you got this centralized thing, and centralized things are just like really tough to run. Like corporate policies change, corporations die. Do you want to bet all this money if you're paying $100,000 or whatever on Yuga or anyone, any centralized person running it? And so then there was this idea in my head of a new type of thing, which was basically what if we combined these approaches and had the CryptoPunks approach, which is you just look at it, there's no there's no nothing, and you also had the Bored Ape approach where there is a pot of money somewhere that's doing something, and so then this is how I think of Nouns. And Nouns is a DAO, but to me, it's a very special DAO. I've been looking a lot into it because for two reasons. So one, DAOs are basically where a bunch of people get together and vote on what to do, and a lot of complexity there, like how do you vote and what do you do. But most DAOs, the big DAOs, have a sort of subject matter. So there's like the ENS token, right, gives you the ability to vote in the ENS DAO, which gives you the ability to vote on how much it should cost to renew an ENS domain, right? And so it's like there's a real subject matter there. And so it makes sense that people would want to be part of that because, this is why that DAO is worth billions and billions of dollars, because, this is a really important protocol, and having the ability to have a say in that, is worth a lot of money. But what the Nouns did was they basically said, okay, we're going to start a DAO with no subject matter. It is going to be the CryptoPunks of DAOs in a way. It is just going to exist. And so, what does that mean? That means being a participant in this DAO gives you the power to vote on what the DAO should do. And we're also going to have a cute NFT that does it instead of an ERC20 token. But it seems like a pretty weird concept. It's like, okay, there's a thing that's valuable now, which is a say in what an ES domain does. Okay, I want to get a piece of that valuable thing. But with the Nouns thing, it's like, what am I buying if I buy into Nouns in the beginning? Like, there's no thing there. It's just to do the thing. So, for example, if a noun costs $100, and with that noun, I get the ability to vote on how to proportional control over the pie. Why not just keep the money, right? Like if three people put in $100 and they each get a third of the power to vote on where that $300 goes, it's like, well, how is that exactly preferable? Like, what value did we create there? How is that actually preferable to just keeping the money, especially because two people can vote to take all the money and split it, half and half. So, that's kind of the fascinating thing with Nouns, to just look at it thing where, a lot of people said, no, we want to do a lot of things with this and put in a lot of money with no, concrete subject matter. Now, of course, if you put in, your friends and, you give 10 of your friends, if you're lucky, you have 10 friends, by the way. So consider yourself very lucky. If you go on a trip and then split an Airbnb, you can't, you have to pool your money to do that. You can't just all rent a room in separate Airbnbs or whatever. But is there enough there? So anyway, Nouns came up with this idea. You buy a noun, you get a vote, and the money that you pay goes into the treasury that you vote on. And so if you, there's $40 million in there now. There are about 480 nouns. And so what that says is each person, if they're proportionately valuable there, has a 1 out of 480 share of that, which is about 60 ETH. And nouns sell for about 40 to 50 ETH. So, there's some equivalency there, but it's a fascinating thing. And they've done a lot of cool stuff with the glasses. So, what are nouns? And, Dov, I would ask you, what should the color scheme be on the website of the official Capsule 21 DAO?
I wasn't expecting that question at the end of that.
Maybe like a dark color scheme, like dark mode.
No, it should be light mode, probably. October will end, and then you have 11 other months to consider. So I would say light mode. So
what is the deal? And by the way, I'd like to open this up, just really for real, because like punks, like good luck, like I know a lot about them. I'm also humble, but especially with the nouns thing, I'm humble because I've really just been looking at them since I put out this idea, but would love to hear other perspectives on what nouns actually is. I think I have a decent,
well, I don't think that you brought up the main reason that they've been talked about this week was the closing of the Discord drama.
Right. So this was a. I'm going to pin these tweets quickly here. This was why we thought the show would be interesting, because they talk about nouns. I'm going to pin this tweet. They talk about nouns as like a protocol, right? And so like, what is a protocol? Like, I don't know, it can be anything, but basically what nouns is, if you look at it, it's like pretty interesting. Like, it's this suite of contracts that governs the auctioning of these things, what these things look like, the NFTs, and lets you then on chain propose ways to spend these NFTs. And when you make a proposal with a noun, you're actually proposing executable code, and then you can vote on them with the nouns, and all this happens on chain. And so it's this protocol where anyone can use it subject to its rules. But then what they were saying is not part of the protocol is this Discord, right? And in a Discord, there's this big trope, which I'm a big believer in a lot of ways, of you buy an NFT and you get to hang out with people. And basically, is it cool to hang out, or is it cool for uncool people? And the cool people are just like, oh God, this is terrible. And one of the and the title of the episode comes from noun punk. I forget the
I think it's 4156.
4156, basically saying, when people talk about Discord moderation, what they really mean is vibe subsidization. In other words, if you're just talking about like scams, like you can use a bot to like do a lot with scams and whatever, like the real act of moderating means like kind of getting people to like be cool and behave and like be funny or not be, it's like kind of getting there to be a good vibe, and giving away these free vibes is not something that they have a budget for because it's not part of the protocol. And so, for my part, I think it's like a pretty interesting, thing because, I sort of got my start in the Not Larva Labs Discord, meeting people there. And of course, the Not Larva Labs Discord was really the precursor to this in a lot of ways, because that was a Discord that was, around the subject matter of the funks, but it did not, was not official, in any way. It was just started by other people. And in fact, there were some tensions with the official one. And so, I think the nouns were sort of saying, we only want that. And since I'm a product of that, I agree, with it, basically. And I consider myself to be cool, and I think, dealing with people who are, don't have social skills or whatever can be, a real overhead. But even Larva Labs did it, as I mentioned before, right? So that's how they're being revolutionary in a sense. Like if you are going more, Larva Labs at least had a Discord where they would tell you that the tokens didn't do anything, right? Imagine someone says, "So what do these tokens do?" and there's no answer. That's art, baby.
Well, it's quite this happening really is a good underpinning for why nouns are like a bad idea, like why nouns don't make sense and why DAOs also like don't make sense. If you don't have a centralized culture hub, if you don't have a centralized place where people say this is the official place where whatever the culture is here is the official cultural overtones, the official vibe of nouns. If you have a bunch of decentralized hubs of culture, where we have 5 nouns discords now, but each one of them has its own kind of flavor. This one is more geared towards the tech side of things, but this Discord, they don't really know much about tech, but they really like talking about the marketing and advertising side of things. They're going to develop, those are different communities. They're going to develop their own inside jokes. They're going to develop their own shared values, community interests, et cetera, et cetera. When you decentralize culture, how can you expect everyone to vote and be happy with the outcome of the voting? It doesn't make sense. So I think what do nouns do already? Nouns do what? They make glasses. They put their face on cans of beans. I don't know how much more absurd it can get from here, but my prediction is that it gets much more. The gums of the DAO get a lot more locked up. Or what do I mean to say? The gears of the DAO get more gummed up. They get locked up. They're going to get jammed. I don't think people are going to be able to agree on stuff. Maybe on like tech stuff and on governance type things that they might be able to come to an agreement. But you need a centralized hub. If you don't have a Discord, then you at least need like a weekly or monthly like town hall where you gather up all the decentralized Nouns adjacent communities and kind of get them to agree on things. I don't know. It's interesting. Deleting that Discord really highlights how bad of an idea it all is. What do you? I mean, whatever. I could get into FUD.
No, look, I think I certainly every bone in my pre-crypto body, right, would very much agree in the sense that like when you are running a company, as I did in the Genius case for 12 years, all of the thinking on it and thinking which I believe is anti this. So the number one piece of thinking is you don't take a poll. And the reason you don't take a poll is that there's just radical differences of information. So, the CEO of a company can't just go and ask someone, hey, what do you think we should do? Because they'd have to say, oh, and by the way, here's all the context information. You have 10 hours that I can imperfectly explain this to you. So, there's no reason to do that. And kind of the CEO, one of the CEO's big jobs is sort of saying, okay, I am going to be the repository for this information so that, I can make so the voting doesn't work according to traditional thinking, which I believe in. And to your point, culture is supremely important, right? Because there's no way to using rules, and this gets to something you've commented at before, the folk truths or whatever. Like, there's no way to write down rules. If you're at a company, you can't write down the employee handbook. Here is how to behave. And if you could, no one's going to read it anyway. What you have to do is have a shared culture, and then everyone will know what to do when there is no rule written down. And that's like supposed to be, and I believe this also, supremely important. So centralized decision making, centralized culture setting, and also an obsession with communication. Is basically the contemporary small to mid-sized company VC funded, especially playbook. And I think that playbook works pretty well. And I think there were times in my experience at Genius, times of crazy stuff when it gets intense, when the mob wants to do something and someone has to say no. Although the Nouns do have a veto, which is, to be fair, they're not exactly subject to the mob thing. But
right,
I think the other side of the coin here, though, would be go into any company, and Genius was one of the good ones, by the way. Like, people tell me now, after it's over, when I was running it, people complained to me constantly and criticized me and scrutinized me. But in the end, it's like, maybe that was actually okay. It's like, thanks for that. Could have used some cooperation. The point being, if you go to most companies, what people will say is the culture's terrible, there's no communication, and the decision process is not clear. It's not like one person's the boss. It's who knows who's the boss. What's going on? I don't know. And so, I think Nouns is really, for me, a question of, compared to what? And if you look at the nonprofit world,
right.
Basically a Nouns is a nonprofit where it's like, try giving money to a nonprofit versus giving money to Nouns by buying a noun. It's like, get ready to, it's like, at least Nouns, you can trace the money to the soup.
Well, okay, I buy a noun. What does that say? If you're buying a noun, what's the reason someone buys a noun? What's the goal there? And I mean that genuinely. Like, yeah, you get a thing that's ostensibly maybe a good store of value, but why do you do that? Like, why would you buy I don't get it. Genuinely, I don't get it.
I think, you could think about why you would want to give money to a nonprofit, which also is a decision to make.
Sure, but a nonprofit has a stated goal. They have a mission statement. They have a history and a track record of doing a specific thing. What do Nouns do?
I think Nouns have I think potentially that's a weakness, but how much do the other nonprofits actually do it? I think Nouns have a mission statement, which is like basically fund public goods and also, educate people about Nouns and get people to like Nouns, and also educate people about crypto and get people to like crypto. Like, I think they have something,
right,
like that. But focus on the ordinary nonprofit case where you give money and then good luck figuring out what happened. It's really hard to do. You have the budget, you kind of know sort of what people are getting paid. You sort of know the initiatives.
But at least I would trust a nonprofit not to spend 50 ETH putting the logo on a can of beans to be sold in a select couple grocery stores in the Pacific Northwest, which is a real thing that the Nouns DAO did. And I don't understand why they did that, but they spent the money doing that. And I don't think that if I gave my money to an established nonprofit that they would waste my money in that way.
Well, but it's like, do they do it in accordance with the thing? But I would say, with the mission, and I think maybe that is. But I think, yeah, you'd be, so I think the to me the key is that if you're serious about the nonprofit thing, you would want to be in some kind of management capacity, like for example, being on like a board of a nonprofit or something like this, and that is a whole hidden secret game of how do you do that, and that's a whole complicated thing. And so what the Nouns project kind of gives you is this amalgamation thing where you get to sort of serve on the board, except there's 500 people on the board, and you although people can delegate to you, so you can also have a bigger voice if people like you or whatever. You're sort of giving money, and you're involved in something that is, transparent or whatever. So, I think it is to me, it is a big, it's a big, 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 compared to what, like, I think it's like, what if you are interested in educating people about crypto, for example, onboarding people, what nonprofit do you even give money to,
Right. Well, I mean, to take a cynical point of view, you just wouldn't, because onboarding people to crypto is onboarding them to get scammed.
Yes. If you wanted to onboard people to scam, who could do that?
Right. Well, I mean, and that's real, because people who have nouns, people who have expensive NFTs in general, kind of have this implied clout and trustability. Trustability is not the right word that I want to use, but I can't think of the right English word. I'm not a thesaurus.
If you're making yourself understood, then it is a word. There's no other theory that could account for changes in language. Maybe that's going to become declared a word tomorrow, so you have to apologize.
But okay, anyway, what I'm saying is that there's people who have punk NFTs and noun NFTs who start scam NFT collections, and they kind of use their position as the owner of these things in order to scam people out of money. So I don't know. That's an unsolvable problem. Well, actually, it's solved by just not doing a PFP collection. But maybe that's not true. There are like real estate gurus who, like, just because they have certain licensures, they feel like they can sell courses, which are a scam.
Yeah,
and
but in this
lots of
case,
other walks
though,
of life.
You do have to ask yourself, and that's another props that I'd give to nouns, is that you have the Mona Lisa CryptoPunks, they don't do anything. You have Yuga, which is maybe securities and SEC issue, and with nouns, the noun is really and it's weird that it has to be an NFT anyway. It really is a fungible. It's a governance token for real. It is not a security. It is not even a speculation device. The nounders get paid in nouns, right? Famously, 10% of all nouns go to the people who founded it. But which is a lot of money if you think about the floor price of nouns, the auction price of nouns. But how liquid is that? Like, if you want to actually liquidate that, you're going to really change the governance structure of this entire thing that everyone is counting on you not to fuck up. And so, if you are if you are a founder of this thing, what you really want to do, how do you get paid? I think one thing you could get paid for is, getting paid to do things, right? Like if you, can create a very great website about educating people about nouns, then it seems like you could win a vote, to do it. You have a lot of power, or benefit in indirect ways. Like, to your point, if people get more educated about crypto, then the value will accrue to those who own the most expensive NFTs, like the nouns people. But I really think that, and this is why I would say another reason to get rid of the Discord is they're sort of thinking like, this is a curse. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think so, for sure. I think they're kind of in a Larva Lab situation where, like, you have the Discord and you're like, I don't even really want to like deal with this anymore because people are just in there all day. And I'm like, there's like scams that happen in this Discord that I don't want to be responsible for, and there's like moderation that I don't want to be responsible for. It makes sense. I think really, like, with the whole deletion of the Discord thing, of the decentralization of vibes, I think is a good way to put it. The Dove, DOV.
Oh yeah, very smart. Very nice. Well done.
I think you kind of run into a Yuga Labs situation where, if you license out all the apes to the individual owners, if you license out the culture to different communities, people are going to do different and disparate things that kind of cannibalize one another. You have apes on packages for weed, and then you have apes on packages for children's books, right? Or like not on packages, but like on the cover, because people are going to have different ideas of like how they want to use this image and like this idea. But if you're a parent and then you see in the store a children's book with a Bored Ape on it, and then you remember that you saw someone like smoking a Bored Ape like weed pen.
Someone smoking.
Yeah, then that's not good, right? That's like not good for your branding.
Yeah,
and I think Nouns is going to have the same thing, where it's like, how do you unify what you want the message of Nouns to be? How do you unify what Nouns are supposed to represent? How do you unify what they're supposed to do and mean? How do you motivate people to buy it if they don't fully understand what the culture is? Because I think a big part of buying Nouns is buying into the culture. So if that gets confused, then I think the incentive to join that ecosystem is like drastically reduced.
Yeah, I mean, I think I think it's a very good, and at least in the Yuga case with the children's book weed thing, like they can just say no weed or whatever, like they can do whatever they want and fix it, and they're not allowed. Imagine Yuga's like, listen, we're closing the Discord, we're closing everything. It's like that would be pretty bad for the whole thing. They're not allowed to do that unless they're saying they're breaking the rules. But yeah, I mean, I think what you're talking about, right, is that you're saying, it's like, look, if you literally want to treat this as a protocol, right? There's this pot of money, and you can add to the pot of money and get the ability to vote it. Then you're going to really have to die on the thing of like, is this protocol working as a protocol? Which means like all kinds of sort of attacks on the voting thing. If you have no informal cultural discord driven rules that get people to be nice and work towards the same thing, then you end up with people saying, well, anything that the rules don't outlaw is fine. So I'm just going to play by the rules and take all the money. And of course, voting systems, are notoriously big issues, right? If you go like Snapshot, which is I think even more sophisticated than the Nouns thing, because Nouns has to do a whole blockchain thing every time they want to upgrade, which they just did recently. There are a lot of different ways you can do voting, and they will all have different results. The most famous example of this is you have A, B, and C running against one another, and vote for the one you like the most, and A gets the most votes, A wins. But B says all the supporters of B prefer C to A. So if there were only C, then C would win. But if there's B and C, they split the vote, A wins. Classic third-party candidate thing. And so if you have like, a different voting scheme that allows you to do runoffs, then you have a different outcome. And that's one example of this. There's actually a whole school of nerd thinking on this called social choice theory or something like this. And there's a big theorem in it, like a proved thing that basically says you can't fix this in a general way. There's always going to be artifacts introduced by the rules of the game. So if you can set the rules of the game, that's amazing. And there's like 10 different rules of the game on Snapshot. And so, if you have to say if it's a protocol, and the protocol, if it's a protocol with no culture and it relies on voting, and then it's really, really going to be driven by what the rules of the game, are. And, with Nouns and other things, often the proposal being presented is a yes or no thing. And yes or no is easy. Pick the one with the most votes. Like, do this proposal or not. Put the goggles on the beer can or not. But really, it's not yes or no, this proposal. It's which are the proposals that we should do this year? Which are the proposals that we should do with the remaining money? Pick 10 out of 1,000, and that sort of process is really, really tough to do. And then, it's no accident that budgets and companies are potentially, managed. You can't.
Yeah. It's kind of funny, you get excited about building a new type of governance. And then I think probably as a nounder, you realize, shit, like government work sucks.
Yeah. Well,
I gotta wade through all these proposals. There's red tape that people are lobbying against me and holding pickets, and like it's hard to vote on things no matter what. Starting
I think it's hard to
sucks.
But then there's the compared to what aspect, and I am not a huge player in the nonprofit world, but I do think that first of all, you have to like what they're doing, right? Which maybe you don't. The bean can thing, maybe you don't like the mission behind that, or that's like the bad mission. But like if you look at getting people together and spending money, I just think the nonprofit way, all the other outcomes, nonprofit, for profit, all of these, have deep. They're more familiar, but they have also deep. I am very familiar with the for-profit case.
Yeah, a
GE
little
itself
bit
went through
of
many phases. Very
a little
dysfunctional companies out there.
right, a little bit of authoritarianism greases the wheels. As much as ETH maxis would like to, maybe don't like that statement. It's true.
ETH maxis love that statement because ETH is an authoritarian
Yeah,
thing.
here's the anti-merge take back again.
I mean, I don't recall voting. I don't recall the DAO where if you hold ETH, you can vote
Well,
on the
you
merge.
could have voted if you ran a node. You could have voted.
Really?
Oh yeah, the whole reason that the merge works is that every node operator had to manually go in and change it. And so the way that you vote, if you wanted to vote no, you would just not change it. But if you wanted to vote yes, you would change it, right?
Yeah, but the rules were not like, hey, it starts at this date, it ends at this date. Like it could just be vote yes or else. That's another way to do a vote. Like,
Well, no,
was
I
there
don't
a
think that I don't think that
snapshot.org
they
type
could have
thing for the
made the.
merge? Like a
Oh,
thing
I guess
where
I won't try to argue because I don't understand how. I don't know anything about development, but I thought it was different. But maybe I've just been, talking to too many pro merge people.
I certainly pro merge people. I mean, really, just what I mean about voting is like the voting starts here, it ends here, and then you see all the votes that happened in that time period, and it's on a public website. There's a sort of metaphorical voting, which is like voting with like your behavior, basically. Like
Yeah.
from your behavior, someone can interpret what your views are, but that's like not really the same thing. But either way,
yeah.
I don't know anything about how the merge was. I mean, I know some things, but
so this is interesting. We here at Capsule 21 have done some vibe cultivation. The Discord is still up. If you want to use the Capsule 21 Discord, you may do so. But no one is in there. I stopped.
I'm in there.
So we've privatized the vibes because now the vibes are solely in a Twitter group chat, which you have to get invited to.
I'm in the Discord, but yeah, we're even more advanced than Nouns. We closed the Discord by turning it into a ghost town by never talking to anyone there. Now
I see that we've got the console people in the audience. I think that's like I don't want to speak on it. I don't really know what it is, but I think that's like a community organization platform that might be interesting.
What is console? I feel like I've heard of it, but I don't totally know. No, David Lieberman, who is here, I'll invite him to speak if he's interested. I know he's maybe got a special night tonight, so no pressure. David Lieberman, my college roommate. Wouldn't you know?
Oh, wow.
Crazy. And so I know him quite well, and he's working on console. I really don't want to talk about console selfishly, just because you and I, David, spent like 2 hours on the phone yesterday talking about it, and so I feel like I know everything. But I think we are talking about DAOs and all this kind of stuff. So what is your perspective? But just keep in mind, we spent 5 hours on the phone. My whole life is console now.
Well, let me just say I spent the last 8 hours talking about it, and I would much rather hear you talk about it, Middle March.
Yeah. So, I think what console is, if I were to pitch it, so there's this thing called Farcaster, there's this thing called console. Basically, these are products that are trying to take, down the middle Web 2 things and push them into more decentralized zones, starting with the basics and getting more and more centralized. So, it's sign in with Ethereum for Discord, basically. So, that's one, nice thing where it's linked to an address and, the authentication is done, by private key. But I think there's a bunch of, they've got a bunch of other cool stuff planned where, you'd be able to not just do the community side of things of the DAO, but manage kind of the proposal and spending, workflows so that, something like Nouns could run its entire thing off of console in the future. However, they would not want the community feature, which is interesting because that's kind of the bedrock of the whole thing as it's commonly supposed. But console also is very focused right now on supporting Bitcoin L2s, which I think are cool and worth me looking more into. But I am an ETH maxi, even though I believe that ETH is run by a venal cabal of dictators. I still, like the punks and everything. So, I'm a ETH maxi, guy. But I think you're not going to make Bitcoin look more like ETH, in my opinion, without, hurting the part that's not. But okay, so let's just
that's a whole different conversation, which is interesting, I think, to have at some point. But consoles for everyone. We're chain agnostic. Initially, you can log in. There's no Web2 login. You connect either with your Hero wallet, which is kind of the world that Middlemarch was just describing, or your MetaMask wallet, which is the world that I think many folks here are more familiar with. So that alone, I mean, solves a number of problems. The Wallet Connect, the community decides the criteria to join. You can just have the Wallet Connect. You can gate it to a certain NFT to be in that console. You can additionally gate individual channels. So you set it up. The idea is for it to be very composable. So some of these modules, we think of them as modules, like the voting module, the treasury module. Like I showed kind of our thoughts about how, very efficient way to design those modules back to you, Middlemarch. Like Chris and I showed you, how we were designing these things back in April. But since then, I mean, we've also realized that some, like Nouns, prefer a slightly different way to do it. So we've gotten to, I think, a more composable point, significantly, I would say, than we were back in April. But yeah, long story short, you can connect to console, not Discord today, and play around. It's fun to see people as they are, like their digital identity is kind of built into it. So it's kind of, that alone is kind of a fun chat experience.
Yeah, so try out console. I mean, Discord I had not really used, and then so what about this, Dove? And then I really want to push other people to talk about the Nouns. There must be someone out there who knows. What up, Mike 3, who knows more about the Nouns? But console, Discord, these are all new. Console is probably new to most people here. It's not on Ethereum yet. When it is, I'm definitely going to try it. But Discord, I was also new to me until this year. But on Discord, we met, Dove, and we talked about dark hair, which is a trait from the CryptoPunks NFT collection on the Not Larva Labs Discord, which is a decentralized, thing that's not the official one of that collection. So without the Nouns, we never would have met.
Yeah, I guess in a butterfly effect sort of way, that's true. I want to note, I'm like I don't like, this is a hot take. I don't like Web3. I'm like afraid of connecting. I recently found out that someone can find out your home address just from your wallet address, and I don't want that.
Well, come on, that's FUD. I rarely call things FUD, but come on, how on earth?
Well, on Discord now, no one can find out where I live. But, well, I mean, just in general, no one can find out where I live unless I tell them. Like, it's kind of scary that someone could know. Is this dumb? Is this like a himbo take? Is this stupid?
How can someone find out where you live from your address?
I don't know. Whale Goddess and Fast Food Rembrandt. They told me that you can, like, if you've ever offloaded money into like Coinbase or something.
Yeah, well, KYC. I mean, it's called Know Your Customer. So
right, but
it's not called just like C.
But okay, but if I'm on Discord and there's a mod who mean to me, and then they can find out where I live, that's scary. Like, because there are people, marginalized groups get attacked and harassed on social platforms. I don't want it to be easier to get attacked and harassed by people. I have like a fear of that. I like my anonymity.
Dove, but from your email address, someone Googles your email address.
They can find what? Where I live?
Totally.
I'm gonna delete everything. This sucks. Okay, but I really aside from the home address thing, Web3 is kind of crazy because you can see how much money I have. Like you can see there's like so much information that you just publicly put out, and then we want to talk about anonymity and decentralization. Like
I was shocked by that. I
Yeah.
was shockkt by that when I first saw that anyone could go to the Etherscan and see the money and where it went. I like immediately created like 5 things. I went nuts. I was shocked, but now I'm trying to be cool. Everyone just says it's cool, to show you that. But I actually remarked at your account. I was like, damn, because Dove's got some cash in his account right now. And I was like, damn, Dove, like you're walking around with that. And Dove was like, whatever, I'm cool. He didn't say I'm cool, but like that was the vibe that I got. But now you're saying this, which is also cool because you're kind of like, being critical of examining the system, which is known to be like a cool activity. But, if you really believe this, then you should get your this cash out of your wallet.
Well, it doesn't matter if I get it out of my wallet because then somebody can just see that I got it out of my wallet.
Yeah, but no one actually looks at that stuff. That's the other truth. People are so dumb, they don't look at anything. They just look at the top line number.
Right, but if you had a targeted harassment campaign, okay, let's say that you're Kafals. I don't know if anyone keeps up to date with like internet gossip. If you're Kafals, someone who recently was like cyber stalked and harassed for a number of years, if you were one of her cyber stalkers, you would certainly go through every single transaction that she had ever made. You know what I mean? I don't know. This is my Web3 FUD. I guess this isn't really relevant to the conversation. I'm not fudding anything in particular. I'm just fudding the lack of anonymity. But anyway,
I think what you point to is the fish is in the water type thing. There's a whole analogy about this. I think everyone is very now used to this. I thought it was crazy, and now I'm used to it. And then you think about what are all of the hidden assumptions that you make during the process of getting used to it. And earlier this year, the hidden assumption for me was, well, I mean, come on, ETH is going to go to 10,000, so who cares about any of the details of these things? I'll buy whatever stuff that I want. And another hidden assumption is probably no one is out there trying to, ruin my life, basically, or trying to do something that will, as a side effect, ruin my life, which is even scarier in a way. But yeah, I mean, what are the all correlations go to 1. This is like something that my friend Todd always says, like when things go bad, everything becomes correlated. So, the idea, and it just happens, like his theory on life, like, oh, like what are the odds of these 4 bad things happening at once? Like it always is at once. All things are more correlated than things, especially when it gets bad. And this is driven from finance where like, there's this hedge fund, long-term capital management that went bankrupt because whatever. But the point being, if ETH goes to 50, that will also be the day where someone is trying to, ruin your life through, this kind of thing, where someone has a targeted harassment campaign against you. So you should not just consider the risks of, these individual things, but know that probably they will happen. The worst case scenario will be overlapping. So, I agree with skepticism. Unfortunately, I have my address in so many contracts and stuff that I don't even know. I can't.
It's impossible to erase. If you've ever interacted with ETH on social media, Twitter, Discord, whatever, you can't erase the period of your life that you interacted with Ethereum. That's forever. Like if I delete my Twitter and my Discord today, you can go on archive.org and go look at when I used to have my ETH address and my display name, and then you would be able to find out what I did for this year of my life and exactly how much money I made and exactly when I cashed out and exactly all the stuff that I own. Which is
I just put my real name, quote unquote real name, no such thing as real name, government name. I put that right next to the ETH address in my name, so I'm actually
yeah, you're the docs master. Yeah,
I'm saving the harassers money, and they should go easy on me for that reason. But yeah, this is sort of a downer conversation. Who's got some thoughts on
the Web3 FUD
Nouns situation? What is Web3 the Nouns? I feel like there's I don't want to call anyone out, but there is one person out there right now who has an avatar with the Nouns glasses and has the Noun. Now that was one smart thing Nouns did. If you look at this person, who I'm not going to call out, but use your own, do whatever, do your own research. there's a Unicode thing that does the glasses in text. So that is really smart to have a Unicode, emoji type, better than emoji type thing. But has anyone here done anything with nouns? Anyone know anything about nouns, DAOs, marketing?
Real quick before someone, if someone
put
wants
up your
to
hands,
please do it. Instead of the glasses, I was thinking that we should put 21 in front of our names. I think that's an easy marker that we should be taking advantage of.
Ah, that's smart. Could be. Yeah, you could do, because there is like Unicode, like weirdo text, which I'm sure Unicode is crazy, by the way, if anyone is interested in that whole thing. If you talk about like knowing what dark hair is on the punks, there's like a universe of that. Like, there's no way to count the number of characters when you are putting your like, I believe if you put like a family emoji into the Twitter text, it'll count it as like 4 letters or whatever. So anyway, we could use the special font memes. Like you can do a Gothic Unicode thing. Here, maybe I will play around with this concept. I have a website.
Yeah,
for this,
you
but
could even
could
do like
cool
a 2
thing.
and a 1 emoji.
No, come on. We have to be like nouns.
Yeah, the old ways.
Yeah, it's got to be like, nerd style. All right, I'm going to set it. I'm on a website which I'm not going to reveal because it's like my little private site, and I'm going to set it. And okay, does it change? Did it change? Go to my okay, refresh the space, or go to my profile. Do you see the 21? All right, I got a thumbs up. So yeah, Dove, what do you think about this? Could we make this into a huge meme?
Oh, I like it. It's Art Deco.
Exactly. It's double struck is the. Let's see if I can find the characters here.
Maybe it's preferable at the end of your name, because then it's not Capsule 21. It's Middlemarch 21. It's Piv 21. It's Dovetail 21.
Yeah, but then you can't see it on the space. So that's a little bit of a problem with your theory.
It's right now it's 5:35 or it's 6:35. I'm on Central Time at the moment. We should do a really quick talk about what we are all working on currently, and maybe just like a little present day update.
Present day update. Yeah, I love it. You go. Everyone knows what Piv and I have done, and everyone knows to buy it. I see some buyers out there. Whoa, Ashton Kutcher. Sorry, Dove. I have to say this first. Ashton Kutcher, is that a hoodie silhouette? Okay, Dove, go ahead.
That's fire. It kind of looks like the egg emoji.
Yeah.
Not emoji. It looks like the egg.
I know the egg
Twitter
thing. I know what you meant.
Okay, Dovetail update. I just got approved for an apartment in New York City. So I'm moving, which is very exciting. That finally happened. I've been searching for like a month and a half.
Hell yeah.
Absolutely brutal market. Really rough. It was really hard to get an apartment, no matter how much money you have. You got to like bid. You literally apply for somewhere, and then they will email you and say, another applicant bid higher. Do you want to add $200 to that monthly rent price? And then if you say no, you don't get it. So it's tough, but I finally got in somewhere I'm very excited about. And I think that'll be good for the art stuff to be in New York City. And in terms of art stuff, I've not been doing very much punk art lately. I did one GIF, and it didn't get much acclaim, which is fine. I'm kind of tired of doing punk stuff. I haven't had like a good punk idea in a minute, but I'm doing the AI stuff now, which is really, really exciting. I've been trying to do one new artwork every single day for the month of October, just as like a challenge to myself to just like output heavily and kind of be able to like craft a cohesive message and like meaning and output over a longer period of time and just be consistent at it. Because I felt like I didn't have like a style that was like a dovetail style. You'd be like, oh, like when I look at that, like I think of this artist. So I've been trying to cultivate that a bit. And I just put out a tweet that I was talking about. I didn't really know how to like talk about what I'm doing really succinctly. If you know anything about machine learning, you know about this concept of like the machine learning black box, where like we don't really understand how the AI goes from input to output. Like we understand the input, we understand the output, but like how it gets from point A to point B is literally unknowable. I'm not like a developer, so I don't understand how that works, but I understand that it's like not comprehensible to humans to know how the AI did anything. As someone who's kind of like a Luddite, like I kind of have like a fear of technology, as evidenced by that like Web3 FUD that I was doing.
You said it wasn't fun at the time.
No, it's fun. It's Web3 FUD. But I have kind of like a fear of technology. I think I have like a kind of an existential dread brought upon by like how rapidly technology advances. Just like thinking about like the nonstop onslaught of like newness and like things that are confusing and things that like we can't understand. And I find that the machine learning black box is like a really good embodiment of this fear of the unknown, and like specifically fear of like technologies that we like don't have all the time in the world to try to comprehend how it works. So I'm trying to, use the AI as a tool to understand itself by outputting images that are very scary, and not in a way that's like blood and monsters, but in a way that kind of makes you think like, ooh, like what's going on there? Like what that kind of looks familiar, but I don't really understand it, or like there's something going on that I don't know. It's like a shadowy person. You're like, what does that person look like? I can't tell. Or it's like a random hole in the ground. You're like, why is that hole there? It's like what's going on? It's like disorienting. So anyway, I wanted to create images that kind of invoked the feeling I got from machine learning and map that onto a very human, understandable, like universal language emotion that we've all experienced before. So that's what I've been doing for the last month. I haven't minted any of them. Actually, that's a lie. I minted one of them, and it's on Foundation for 1 ETH right now. It's actually a collage. It's like a GIF. It's very cool. But all the stuff that I've been doing one a day, I don't know what I'm doing with it yet. I think that I probably will mint it. Maybe I won't mint it. I kind of want to make it into a physical artwork with like a computer screen and kind of turn it into like a physical digital art display. We'll see. If you have good ideas, talk to me about it. I think it's fun. I'm playing around with non-NFT ideas in terms of art, but I'm sure NFTs will be included somehow. But yeah, that's the update. That's what I've been up to.
I love it. I mean, I love everything about it. I mean, I think it's also very appropriate for Halloween. I mean, in terms of the backstory, I get it. I think you're doing it in a very, tasteful way. I think that, for me personally, whenever I use one of these things, it is extremely easy to, without skill, create something that evokes the terror of this thing. Like, just like, and I think they're better at it now, but like just the way it produces some messed up face for someone, you're just like, oh my God, like what is the internal, machinations of this thing? And so I think what you're doing is much more restrained in a way, because, you're sort of, like just creating something disturbing with it is much easier and more on the nose. And I think you're doing a cool thing. But to me, the most disquieting thing is that tweet about how DALL-E has that like secret language where you write like this gibberish and it shows you like a bird or whatever. Like that to me, when I saw that, I was just like, okay, that's game over. Like that is so stressful.
Oh, if you like that, okay. If you have, I know you're busy. You're a husband. You're a parent. You are a developer. You're busy. If you have 30 minutes, if anyone listening has like 30 minutes of time, there's a video on YouTube. It's on a channel called Nexpo, and the title is something with the word LOAB in it, lobe. that is a very scary video about this kind of machine learning language where when you type in lobe into an AI image generator, it creates like this very scary looking woman, and it's like very consistent about it. It's like that combination of 4 letters produces like a scary woman, and it's like why does it do that? How does it do that? Anyway, it's
And
worth
does anyone
checking.
know, like, what's the answer to this? Like, you know,
I don't think that there is an answer. I think that's part of the black box. It's like you don't know how it made that connection.
right, but I mean, it's like, how does it make the connection every time? I guess, is it like then it's feeding itself or something? I don't know. I mean, it's also it's that, but then it also sort of gestures at the existence of other yet unknown, weird, impossible to anticipate, terrifying things.
Right, right.
So yeah, I mean, I would say that there is a very strong case to be made, and I know what is his name, Rune or something. Who is this guy who I follow on Twitter? Yeah, Rune, TSZZL, who I'm a fan of, who's basically like this AI maxi guy who's basically saying, sorry, like crypto people, like it's cool, but it's not going to be that important because by virtue of the fact that AI is going to be the only thing that is important at all, in the future. So if you're working on anything else, goodbye. And that, I think the depth here, because in a way, like the crypto thing, the whole point of it is that it's like pretty simple, like in terms of, that's what appealed to me. Like, oh, I know how to program JavaScript. Like I can program a smart contract. Like, but this AI thing is like the opposite end, where, to your point, it's purposely impossible to know what's happening. So, yeah, I mean, I think got to be all in on AI is basically that's the true Web3 FUD, is that the gibberish bird thing, because if you got that going on.
Yeah, if you can harness that energy, you can do anything.
You can do anything, exactly. Well, it's also if you can't, you're dead. You're gonna soon be in deep trouble. But yeah,
that's a good dark turn. That's a good Halloween episode.
Yeah, this is the Halloween episode. No, next week is the. Although another thing I've been doing, which is also similarly dystopic in a way, is during the Super Bowl, which was when NFTs were bigger, I just bought a ton of these Bud Light NFTs, which were poor use of money, but gestures at like how bullish I was overall in terms of this thing is guaranteed to go up a ton. So anyway, during the Super Bowl, I impulse bought a Oculus 2, which I then did not even take out of the box because I was less bullish and I was just like kind of ashamed of the purchase in a way. But then I took it out of the box recently because my kitchen is being renovated, and pretty amazing stuff. I don't know if anyone's played with this Oculus thing. It's like people were clowning like Mark Zuckerberg for like not doing good with Meta or whatever. Then you use this thing, you're like, oh my god! So it was also pretty.
You got to use it for longer.
And then
it's a bell curve. You don't think it's good, and then you use it for a little bit. You think it's the best thing in the world, and then the other half of the bell curve starts, and then you realize how bad it is.
Oh God. Well, I was playing. The real reason I got it was because I'm staying in a different place. I'm not in my house now, and the place that I'm in does not have my cats, and I missed my cats. So I figured maybe in this VR thing, there's some kind of cat simulator or something where I can like have a cat experience, without my own cats. And turns out there is not a cat simulator, but I got this table tennis game. And it turns out when you're playing against the AI, you can give the AI a cat head as it serves balls to you. And so basically it's a cat simulator. So I'm like playing against this cat AI table tennis thing. And it's a lot of fun, honestly. And then someone challenged me. I played with someone last night. There's like an audio thing. You can like chat and play table tennis with some random person who had like a creepy avatar too. I was like, bro, like, is that really like a Donnie Darko rabbit avatar? Like, what are you coming in here with that for? But he was a cool guy, Caleb, completely crushed me and then made the joke. Actually, I just started playing it today. And I was like, are you kidding me? He's like, no, I play this every day. I'm like, okay, good.
Hell yeah. I want to give a shout out real quick. I just got a notification that Daobao has started an auction for one of my artworks, which is really, really cool. It's an artwork called Oscar Wilde. And it kind of uses the Moonlake disintegration-like technique, but it has a different context. It's very interesting.
Does this dilute my thing?
No. This is good for Moonlake.
Okay, good.
This is like the lower entry into Moonlake aesthetic.
Oh no. It's cheaper than mine? Okay, this is not really, this is out of scope.
It's only cheaper if the auction doesn't go up. No. But thank you, Daoba. I really appreciate that. Genuinely.
All about me. All right. Well, we I think as a record here, we're closing in on the 2-hour mark, which is the sweet spot for every podcast, and we have not literally heard any input. We had some community action earlier, talking a little bit, but in terms of the main questions, and really that much at all, this has been our smallest amount of community input. And so, to that, I would just say, look, if you want your career to go up, you've got to try podcasting. And now, at this very second, can be your option. This is something that will appear on Spotify. You can send it to your friends, and they will hear your perspective. It's on Spotify, right next to Lil Uzi Vert, which they're probably listening to as well, and they'll probably learn something about him too. So who has thoughts on nouns? Who has thoughts on memes? We got Ben out there. Thank you, Ben, the top holder of default punks. I don't know why I'm thanking Ben. Ben should be thanking me. No, Ben shouldn't be thanking me, but I think he's wisely investing in my obsession over the past couple weeks. So thank you. It is a real thank you. Who else out there wants to thank someone or has a perspective? This could be about nouns, could be about any of the things we've talked about. This is kind of one of the theses behind this podcast, is that we do it in front of a live Spaces audience in order to, have community participation. I'm gonna have to cut this part where I'm begging people to to talk. Now I don't cut anything. This is real. Okay, so what about you, Piv? You're not really part of the community, but haven't heard from you in a minute. What's your feeling on nouns? I don't think I ever got your take on nouns.
I don't really know that much of nouns, but I've been thinking that it's really a struggle for finding utility, and it's like sometimes the art is not enough, so they need utility, and often there is just no utility. But it's like if there's not enough art, then at least we have the utility. Does that make sense?
I think it's I've done some consulting work in my new thing and freelancing programming for people, and for the first time really, and it's just very easy to underestimate the amount of work involved in something when you are pricing it, because you don't want to price it too high, but there's a lot of work to do with all this stuff. And likewise with something like nouns, you go in and say, hey, we want to be different, we want to offer these things XYZ, and then how much does it cost in the end? And you think about it again from the nounder perspective, it's the Larva Labs, the Punks founders and the Yuga founders, even relative to the success of the project, made off, with a lot more, money. And, how do you reach that? Because there's just not so much of a, how do you provide the utility in a way that people actually want it without it costing so much that you don't make any money from all your hard work? Yeah, very, very challenging.
But I come from architecture, and there's always the utility. So it's all utility, and sometimes if you're lucky, you can add in a little bit of art, and it's very much the opposite often of what we're doing here. There's just the art, and you try to find some utility for it.
Yeah, that's like the nouns people running the Discord 24/7 is like working at a architecture firm.
Yeah.
I mean, that's, by the way, what he was saying. 415, I can always forget he was sort of saying this is either a terribly disorganized, dysfunctional company or a potentially good, protocol. And I think people don't want to show up at the architect. I mean, you know this better than anyone. People don't want to have to show up and deal with all the details of, being an architect, and then the nouns people are like, wait, we just became architects? What? So let's get rid of that. But yeah, don't become an architect without really thinking about what it is on a day-to-day basis, because you're not Rem Koolhaas. Isn't that crazy? The name of an architect is Koolhaas. Like, isn't that insane? Oh, we got some requests. Sorry, we got critical. We got not done. I'm here begging for community whatever, and now I'm getting it. Critical, you were first to appear before me. What is your community input?
Or maybe AFK.
Not done. You were second to hear. Yeah, what's your community input?
In regards to like DAOs in general, not just the Nouns DAO, I don't really have much knowledge on them other than some small reading, but I just think they don't work. I mean, maybe down the line they will, but it always seems to be a problem with the votes and getting people to vote and how voting works and moving things along. And when you have 10,000 people involved in, voting that may or may not, have a say or even be that involved in the community, it just seems like a mess, really, in my opinion.
I agree.
What if not Nouns, what kind of examples come to mind to you that illustrate this sort of issue?
Just experience over the last few years of any kind of DAO being formed. It's just the end result always seems to be a stalemate in votes or getting people to vote or moving a vote along, and it just seems to stall out most of the time. So,
right. How do you? So it's sort of like the failure case you're thinking about is just like, how do you actually get decisions to getting decisions to happen versus even them being right is the is a big challenge, you're sort of saying.
Yeah, I guess like to have the whole community involved and to have a say kind of doesn't work. I don't know. There's a saying like not every voice deserves to be heard, and that's kind of a problem with Twitter. Like everyone's voice is heard, but is it warranted in all the cases, or is it needed, say on a specific topic, or maybe give more weight to people that are have more expertise in something on a vote that is related to it, say art history or culture or preserving that, maybe someone that but then you kind of go down the whole like the hierarchy that we already have in place of people that have diplomas have more say, or people that have kind of an in already have a say. So it's a fine line, and it's kind of hard. It's just over time, as I've seen the DAOs develop or different things occur, it appears that that's where the hang up is getting people to vote and moving forward and through votes, just as easy as that is, or you think it would be.
Interesting. Yeah, cool. No, I appreciate that, and it's always compared to what also, like, I think this is again coming from the for-profit company world. This was always one of the big criticisms that I received, which I think was an accurate criticism, which is just like, stop, just make a decision, make a fucking decision, Tom. Like it's just very easy to, it's I think easy in a lot of contexts to kind of get paralyzed. And I think, with DAOs it's probably worse since you have a quorum. Like at least with me, when I had to make a call as CEO, at least the quorum was one, but still it was often, a challenge to make a decision. Critical. What's good?
Hi, good morning. Hey, good to hear from you guys. I'm missing a few. This is a busy time, but I've gotten through the busier part of the morning. I don't have much to contribute to sort of Nouns. I haven't been following. I think I know I appreciate what I'm hearing, but I haven't been following enough to contribute to that. I just wanted to come up to talk about AI art and some of the things I've seen from Dove. And I commented the other day, and I just thought here's a chance for me to say in person that, like, I sincerely really appreciate what Dovetail is exploring with AI art compared to a lot of the other things that I see on Twitter and even out there in Instagram. I've never liked AI art. I've really felt, and it's got nothing to do with the idea that it's not art or any of those sort of conversations. I just something about it just always seems to speak to this kind of fantasy or psychedelic or some kind of strange thing that just seems really sort of juvenile and naive to me, and it doesn't seem like it's working or speaking to the medium or exploring anything that is actually interesting about it. So I just completely scroll past so many things I see, and like people posting, I'm like, okay, it's another one of those things, whatever. There are a lot of interesting prompts that people use too, but I still think it comes out just looking some way for some reason. I don't know if there's a filter, and there's a lot of scraping from like these artists and different things off the internet of, you know, known sort of fantasy or sort of surrealism or anything. All these things seem to just end up in this kind of basket, and they don't really do a lot for me. That's just personally speaking. But I am really interested in, you know, conceptual art, sort of abstract minimalism, and a little bit, you know, different things, sort of simpler types of ideas, and, you know, formalism and things like that. So that's obviously, I'm not the market. This is a very subjective opinion I have, but I do think a lot of it just seems a little bit, you know, non-critical or interesting for me. So I just commented on what Dove is doing is really fascinating. And the ones that I was first interested in was when you were making those things and you questioned about the potential for, you know, the fake news and the reality and what is real. I'm really interested in that in terms of sort of cinema. You know, I did film studies, and like I'm interested in documentary realism and things like that. And so when I saw you posted something about a riot, I was like, wow, look at that. You know, you could really just doctor or script up a scene, you know, like there could be a still from something really chaotic happening, and create a whole narrative. It's pretty incredible. And what you just spoke about, this your experience or of this kind of this sort of creepiness with the AI, like this sort of ghost. It reminded me about this sort of ghost in the machine type thing. This kind of spirit of the thing. That's really fascinating. So I'm basically come up to give a shout out to Dove for being, you know, just thinking differently, and you know, going against the grain, and actually using his brain to create stuff. So shout out Dove.
Yeah, thank you so much. I really do appreciate that. Yeah, it's like very, very sweet of you to say. I feel kind of the same way about a lot of AI art that I see. I think when you have the opportunity to create anything, people like to slide, you know, the slider all the way to the right. You know, you max out creativity. Okay, look, surrealism. We're doing the most crazy thing we can come up with. And when you pare that back and kind of take a more considered approach, you can stand out. So, thank you. I'm glad that people kind of get it.
Yeah, I like it. And you know, speaking, I just spoke about, you know, the conceptual side of it, how I find that interesting, but obviously as well, then the end result aesthetically looks really cool too. So I should add that as well. Like some of those things I've seen you post, there was like a figure in a doorway, I think, or something like that. And yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I find, yeah, it's very cool. So yeah,
Thank you.
Love it. Great ending point. I 100% agree, and I think everyone out there should take a look at Dove's TikTok, where he tells you how to do it, so you can get comments like you just heard from Critical. You can get them about yourself by looking at his TikTok.
Yeah, you steal my swag.
What's the TikTok?
TikTok is Dovetail3.
Dovetail3, and the L is a real L this time.
Everything is real. Yep. No games. Dovetail3.
No games. Okay, cool. So check it out. So this has been the Caps 21 podcast, filmed in front of a live, taped in front of a live Twitter Spaces audience every Thursday at 5 p.m. Please join us again next Thursday at 5 p.m. If you're listening to this, that still will be true. It still will be next Thursday. So Spotify, please come to Twitter Spaces. Please listen to Spotify. That is it. We are out. Thank you all. Good night.